So, you're thinking about handing in your notice. That's a big step. But before you do that, there's something really important we need to talk about. It's your end of service benefit, or EOSB. A lot of people don't realize that the amount you get isn't fixed. It actually changes depending on when you leave. So today we're going to break down exactly how that works so you know what to expect.
Yeah, moving on to a new job is exciting, but there's always that big question, right? What happens to your final payout? You've put in the time, you've earned it, but figuring out the final number isn't always so straightforward. Let's get into it and clarify how it's all calculated. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll cover your basic resignation payout. Then, we'll dive into the 3 different service tiers that really determine what you get. After that, we'll talk about how you can unlock your full benefit. And finally, we'll touch on why this whole system is even a thing in the first place. Okay, let's jump right in. The single most important rule you need to know is this. Under Saudi labor law, if you are the one who chooses to resign, your end of service benefit is calculated in a very specific way. And that's a really key distinction. So the big takeaway here is that your EOSB, it's not some static number set in stone. It actually grows and evolves right along with your time at the company. It all comes down to how long you've been there. So, how exactly does the law measure that time? Well, that question brings us right to the heart of the matter. It's all about what we call the 3 service tiers. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a journey. As you hit certain milestones in your career, you kind of level up, and your final payout gets a major boost. And you can see that roadmap right here. Your benefit doesn't just creep up slowly, year by year. Nope. It takes these big, significant leaps at key moments. You've got the 2-year mark, the 5-year mark, and then the big one, 10 years. Each of these is like unlocking a new level with a much bigger reward. This chart makes it super clear, right? You start off getting 1/3 of your total benefit. Then, boom, you jump up to 2/3. And finally, you get the whole shebang, the full amount. It's a perfect visual for how your loyalty really pays off over time. So let's break down what each of these stages really means. All right, let's start with Tier 1. This is for folks who've worked for a company for at least 2 years, but haven't quite hit that 5-year mark yet. So, if you decide to leave during this time frame, you're entitled to exactly 1/3 of your total calculated benefit. Think of it as the first step on the ladder. But what happens once you cross that 5-year line? Well, that's when things get a lot more interesting. You've officially entered the second tier, and believe me, the reward for your service gets a whole lot bigger. At this stage, your entitlement literally doubles. You're now eligible for 2/3 of your total calculated benefit. That is a huge jump, and it's specifically designed to recognize your continued commitment to the company. And that brings us to the grand finale, the final tier. This is the big payoff we've been building up to, securing your full 100% end of service benefit. This is what it's all about. Yep, there it is. Once you hit 10 years of continuous service or more, if you decide to resign, you get the entire thing. No fractions, no reductions. You receive every single bit of the EOSB you've earned, period. Okay, so that 10-year rule sounds pretty clear, but you might be wondering, are there any exceptions? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The law recognizes that sometimes life happens and you have to leave for reasons that are totally out of your control. So, under Article 87 of the labor law, there are a few special cases where you get your full benefit no matter how long you've worked there. This includes resigning due to marriage or childbirth for female workers. It also covers something called force majeure, which is just a legal term for huge, unpredictable events that make it impossible for you to keep doing your job. So, why? Why is the law structured this way? What's the thinking behind this whole tiered system? Let's get into the rationale behind it. When you boil it all down, it's pretty simple. The system is designed to do one thing, to acknowledge and reward loyalty. It creates a clear incentive for employees who invest their time and skills in a company for the long haul. And hey, for those of you who like to know the specifics, the legal foundation for this entire tiered structure is Article 85 of the Saudi labor law. That's the article that sets out the whole 1/3, 2/3, and full benefit system we've been talking about. Look, if there's one single thing you take away from all this, it should be this. Your patience and dedication literally pay off. The entire system is built to ensure that the longer you stay, the greater your financial reward will be when you decide it's time to move on. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you know how these financial milestones work, does it change how you plan your career? Understanding this system is a really powerful tool for making the best decisions for your future. Thanks for joining us.